So we have to talk about what's going on out in New Orleans, because not only is it very interesting and more people should be talking about it, but it could be a game changer moving forward in the future of this franchise. When it comes to New Orleans this season, they have been an utter and complete disaster. Injuries have plagued this franchise all season long, the two biggest blows being Herb Jones and DeJounte Murray being out for the remainder of the season, an awkward relationship with Brandon Ingram that resulted in trading him, and the return isn't probably what they thought they were going to receive. Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk, solid pieces, but B.I. was the biggest piece, if you will, outside of draft picks that the Pelicans received during the Anthony Davis trade. That's not what you thought you were going to receive when you traded him off. And just overall, a lot of players not meeting expectations. CJ McCollum, I am definitely looking at you. And all of this has not only resulted in one of the worst records in the NBA, but the second worst record in franchise history, which is a big old yikes. And of course, at the center of it all is the 24-year-old face of the franchise in Zion Williamson. He too started this season very underwhelming, which those concerns kind of carried over to him missing a large portion of the season, dealing with a hamstring injury. And of course, anytime Zion misses some games, the narratives come out. He's a fat slob who doesn't take the game serious, and he needs to get in shape. And this got so bad that in the middle of the season that there were some details being leaked about his contracts that effectively put him in jeopardy to lose all of his money in this season. Now, I'm not going to go into any deep details because we did an entire video about it, so make sure you check it somewhere on the screen or maybe at the end of this video. But in short, for those who are unaware, Zion's money moving forward was no longer going to be guaranteed unless he met certain requirements. The two biggest requirements was a certain amount of games that need to be played, as well as him passing weigh-in check-in points that it seemed as if like he wasn't passing periodically throughout the season. And of course, this all piqued the interest of many people, and some questions came about. How exactly was Zion going to play a certain amount of games if he's dealing with a hammy? Matter of fact, since he is dealing with a hamstring injury, how was he able to sustain a level of weight that is necessary for him to pass these check-in points? But it actually got so bleak that some people were even asking themselves, how much longer is Zion going to be on this team? And his name actually got brought up in certain trade rumors all throughout the deadline, which to many people seemed a bit excessive, but in all honesty, I kind of understood the direction of where they were going. This is an organization that put a lot of chips in the direction of banking on Zion being that next best superstar, and the fact that he wasn't living up to expectations solely because he wasn't properly managing his weight is a bit concerning, disappointing. But if you have yourself an out by not attaching himself with guaranteed money, or at least he has to earn it, then there is a way that you could pull yourself out of this hole with Zion, let somebody else experiment with him, and just tank for Cooper Flagg. Now, as we all know, the trade deadline came and went, and Zion's still on the team, and I do believe it's only appropriate and responsible if I were to report on him if he played significantly better and turned the season around, or at least statistically speaking, and that's exactly what he is doing. In the last 15 games, which effectively have been all of the games that he's played since he's been back from his injury, he's averaging 27 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists with the steal, and shooting splits of 62.5% from the field, 33% from behind the arc, and 63% from the free throw line, and getting to the charity stripe 7 times a game. And if all of that isn't impressive enough for you, he's doing all of that in only 27 minutes a game. 27 points with 7 rebounds and 5 assists in only 27 minutes. That's crazy. Zion is relentless. He is back to looking like an athletic spectacle, and he is borderline unguardable. I actually saw some numbers kind of floating around on the timeline claiming that on Second Spectrum, Zion is the most double-team player since they have been recording this stat, which dates back all the way to 2014. And actually, the gap between him and the second most double-team player, which I don't know who it was, is like a 10% gap. It's actually a noticeable gap. And all this is happening in 27 minutes. I actually watched him play against the Los Angeles Lakers a couple of nights ago, where he recorded 37 points in 26 minutes. And again, he is unstoppable. That first step that he had, that burst, that immediate go that allows him to get to the paint regardless of who's in front of him, it is there. And because how often teams have to throw multiple bodies at him, because again, he is unstoppable when he's getting downhill, of course, that is just generating quality looks for his teammates all game long, or at least within the 26 to 27 minutes in which he is playing. Now, what exactly is attributing to this significant turnaround? Because in the first handful of games of the season, he did not look this good at all. Again, like I said earlier, he was underwhelming to start this season. So what is attributing to this turnaround? Well, I would say that it's 2, maybe 3 things. The first being, the team doesn't have really much to go for. So you're out there experimenting with Zion in different ways, and it's obviously yielding results that are very impressive. But probably the 2 biggest ones is A, there has been a report claiming that Zion is the lightest that he has has been since he was drafted into the NBA. Some reports claiming that he's already down 20, maybe even 30 pounds. Very impressive, and if you look at him play and just watch him in post or pre-game interviews, you can clearly tell he's down weight. He does not look as big as he did before. He looks much more toned as well, and you can clearly see the results, and he's just blowing by, bullying people, getting back to who we all thought he was going to be when he first came into the league. But of course, the other aspect of it, and why I kind of set up everything here, is that when you're losing that much money, of course, you're going to be incentivized. And it is very important to note that the way that Zion is playing right now, if he continues to go down this pace and he only misses 3 more games this season, he will meet the 41 game threshold to make sure 40% of his contract is guaranteed. And I did the research, I did the counting correctly. 3 games, that's it. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Pelicans only have 3 back-to-backs remaining for the rest of the season. I don't know, dog. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's done purposely. And if Zion misses all 3 of those back-to-back, you got to come here back on this channel and say, I was right, or at least give me a little bit of credit, just a little bit of credit. But in all seriousness, Zion being able to perform at this level when he's had this type of incentive is very, very telling. I do think that there is some form of criticism, and valid one at that, for a player having to play at this level only because his money isn't fully guaranteed. It does beg the question that if your money was fully guaranteed and if they didn't have to put you on a strict regimen in terms of your diet, what version of yourself would we get? Because so far in your career, you just haven't lived up to expectations, in large part due to the level of seriousness that you are willing to take upon yourself in terms of getting your body right and going down this path. And look, I am definitely not the one to talk about somebody's diet because I'm fat as anyone else, but I do believe that it is kind of sad. It's pretty disappointing that this is the path that we had to go through to get Zion to play at this level, if my beliefs are correct, that the reason why we're going down this path is because he's trying to meet that 41 game threshold. He's lost weight to meet the amount of weight that he needs to meet that threshold as well, to just guarantee as much money as he can, because due to the fact that he's not playing, I believe, 51 or 61 games, there's a lot of money that he's going to end up leaving on the table this year. I believe it's probably around 40% of his contract is already non-guaranteed. He's not going to receive it. So that is pretty concerning. That's actually kind of crazy. And I do believe, due to Zion, this might actually become more common practice in the NBA, where teams who have been affected pretty harshly by players not being available consistently, Zion might have actually just put out a blueprint to everyone else on how other teams may structure contracts if you have a player like a Zion on your team, because it is low risk, high reward. If you do not perform, if you do not play, if you do not kind of keep your weight in check, that means that we're talking about 20 to 40 to 80% of your contract just like that can be gone due to your own unwillingness to take this much more serious. And what's probably even more disappointing is that there is a full season now that has been wasted, and I don't want to say it's all on Zion, but it is unfortunate that due to Zion just not taking it serious in some capacity, that we have missed an entire season of potential really good basketball from this Pelicans team. Shout out to Trey Murphy. He has emerged and is looking significantly better than I think a lot of people anticipated. I would very well argue if the Pelicans were not at the bottom of the conference, he would be in most improved player of the year conversations. For the season, Trey Murphy is averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting splits of 45, 36, 37, and 88% from the charity stripe. And even in the last 15 games, effectively all of which are playing alongside Zion, the numbers go up across the board: 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting splits of 47, 40, and 88. And even those numbers don't really do it justice to who Trey Murphy has been on the floor, because he is also shot creating as well. It's not just catch and shoot, it's just not movement shooting. We're talking about step back threes and all. Trey Murphy is legit that guy. Most improved player of the year candidate if they are winning more, but people are not talking about it because Zion just hasn't been there. Zion has not been as impactful as he should be because he's not available, even in the handful of games in which he has played recently. And again, in a minutes restriction, the impact is undeniable. It's crazy. In the last 15 games, when Zion is on the floor, the Pelicans have an offensive rating of 121, defensive rating of 114, and a net rating of 6.6 when he's off the floor in these exact same 15 games. Offensive rating goes down to 106, defensive rating inflates to 123, and net rating is minus 16.6. In the last 15 games that Zion has played, they win those minutes 7 points when he's on the floor, lose them by nearly 17. And be very mindful mindful, Herb Jones, DeJounte Murray, not playing. That's the level of impact that we're talking that Zion has. And so on one hand, I want to highlight this because I want people to know next year, the Pelicans could be very, very scary, very dangerous in the Western Conference where a couple of teams might not be, as impressive as they were this year because a couple of things may change a little bit out West. What's probably even more disappointing and sad is that this is the player that we've all been waiting for. This is the player that we all know exists. This is the player that was supposed to transform this franchise. And the fact that it took non-guaranteed money, potentially, the fact that it took requirements in your contract, potentially, the fact that it needed to take you losing 40 to 60% of your contract just for us to get to this point, though it is necessary, it should not have to get to this point for us to get these type of results, because this is the player that we all knew was in Zion all along. And if this is the version of Zion that we get moving forward, the Pelicans might be back. The Pelicans are going to be very, very interesting. It's also going to be very interesting to see what they do with their lottery pick, because I think a lot of teams will be interested in them. And, you can kind of shake up a lot of things. So I wouldn't rule out the Pelicans because Zion is looking like Zion once more. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, that last video that I talked about, it's somewhere around here. Somewhere, I don't know. They'll put it somewhere up here. So make sure you go check that out as well to get a little bit more information on Zion and his contract situation. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.